Hello to my year nines. Welcome to our final lesson for this little topic about homeostasis and feedback mechanisms. I hope that you've been enjoying this little segment. So today we're going to bring it all together. So we're going to now talk about how feedback systems work in human biology, focusing on when they're working and what happens if they fail. So to start with, we are going to look at our learning intentions. So today, by the end of this lesson, you should be able to explain how multiple body systems interact to maintain homeostasis. You should be able to analyse a scenario and identify the stimulus, receptors, control, effectors, and feedback loop involved, and also be able to justify your reasoning using scientific terminology. So all about that language that, like we're thinking like scientists, and evaluate what happens when a feedback loop fails. So you would remember from a couple of weeks ago, we did a little self-regulation activity called a power paragraph. So I want you to do this again today. So for 2 minutes, you're going to write down everything that you can remember about homeostasis and feedback mechanisms in the body. So I want you to pause the video, set your timer for 2 minutes and write down everything you can in that 2 minutes. And then I want you to put that aside and we're going to revisit that at the end of our session today. So pause now and I'll see you in a minute. In 2 minutes. I hope that was useful. So just forget about that for now and we'll come back to it. So we're going to do a quick revision on feedback mechanisms and then a quick recap on the 3 big body systems, and then we'll continue on to some of our application today. Feedback mechanisms are those processes in our body that help our body maintain homeostasis, maintaining our balance and regulating internal conditions. We can have our negative feedback or our positive feedback, and both play crucial roles in the physiological functioning of our body. So temperature regulation, hormone levels, and overall stability within the body. Remember our flow chart from a few lessons ago? We have the stimulus. So this is what is happening in the body. So for example, when we talk about thermoregulation, the stimulus is our body temperature gets too hot or too cold. The sensor will be those thermoreceptors in our body that detect that temperature change, sends a message to the control center in our brain, which tells our effectors that they need to do something about it. So if we're too hot, we're going to get vasodilation so that heat can be released from the skin and some sweating. If we're too cold, we're going to shiver and our blood vessels are going to constrict to keep us warm. And the response will be that the temperature will either come back down to normal or go up to normal, and that message gets back to the sensor to say we're all good now. We can stop that, and that's a negative feedback. Or the other way, it might be positive feedback where the response tells our sensor to keep going. Quick recap on those 3 big systems. So we've got our nervous system, remembering that this is our rapid response. So our nervous system is facilitating that immediate response to any changes that are occurring. Remember our neurons, they look like electric wires. The electrical signals are traveling through very quickly through those wires, through our neurons, and it allows those quick adjustments to any stimuli, such as if we've got pain. So if we put our hand on a hot stove, we're going to very quickly pull away, or any temperature changes. So we're relying on our nervous system to be really quick to have almost an immediate response. Our endocrine system is a little bit of longer acting, and it takes a little bit longer than the nervous system to kick in, and that's because our hormones are in our bloodstream and they travel around to the different parts of the body, and it relies on the speed of the blood to get it around to the target cells. And so this system tends to influence processes such as growth, metabolism, and mood, but it can also kick in for things like fear or temperature, and releasing the adrenaline and all that sort of thing to help us to helps the nervous system to be able to react, so we can continue that reaction. So it's not quick and stop and then you put your hand back on the stove. It's quick to pull away, and then the adrenaline tells you to get out of there, move away from the heat. And then we briefly talked about the immune system. So this is our body's defense. And this is where we've got harmful pathogens, so viruses, bacteria, fungi, all of that. And we have our immune system, which has a complex network of cells that works together to eliminate any threats. Now, in our next topic, starting from our next lesson, we're actually going to delve more into the immune system and about infectious and non-infectious diseases. But we need to know that the immune system does play a role with our nervous system and our endocrine system in helping our body return back to its homeostasis state or our balanced state. Remembering that we have two types of feedback mechanisms. We've got positive feedback and negative feedback. Our positive feedback is where whatever change is happening, we need it to continue. And so it just keeps going and going. So for example, our childbirth, so baby's head pushing down on the cervix, sends a message up to the brain to say release some oxytocin, which makes the contractions stronger, allows baby's head to continue to push down on the cervix, which sends another message back to the brain to go more oxytocin. And that's called positive feedback because it's amplifying that change until baby's born. And then there's no longer any stimulus. So the baby's head is now no longer pushing against the cervix. And so there's no message going back to the brain to say continue to release oxytocin, and it stops. But this is a critical process and we need this amplifying impact so that this critical process is completed, because if contractions stop and baby's not born, that can end up being really bad for baby and mum. Negative feedback is our maintaining stability. So this is where we're counteracting some deviations that are occurring in the body. So for example, if we get too hot or too cold, our body's not going to be able to function properly. So we need it to be reset back to its normal, and the negative feedback allows that to happen. And blood sugar regulation is also a good example. So if it's too high or too low, we need some hormones to be released, and it works through negative feedback. This ensures that our body remains in a stable state and allows us to effectively respond quickly to any changes that are occurring in our body so that we can get back to our prime state where things will work nicely. So to start with, we're going to do a self-paced case study, or 3 case studies. So we've got 3 here. We've got heat stroke during sport, which we talked about briefly last lesson. We've got viral infection causing fever, and we've got low blood sugar during an exam. So we've got 5 questions here that I want you to answer for each case study. So there should be 15 questions that you answer. So what was the stimulus? So what is the thing that's happened, that's changed in our body, that is different to normal? Okay, so for heat stroke, we're getting too hot. That would be a stimulus there. Which system detected the change? Which system then acted in response? What type of feedback mechanism was involved? Was it positive or negative? And if there was a failure in the feedback mechanism, where did it occur, and explain. This is a self-paced activity. So I want you to either use the QR code or the website here, and it will take you to our Padlet where you'll see the questions under each case study. I want you to take some time and answer these questions. You may need to go and do a little bit of your own research to find the answers to this, but think about what you already know about feedback mechanisms and think about what might be happening in the body. So take about 10, 15 minutes, however long you need or how short you need. Pause the video here, and once you've finished each of these case studies, I want you to come back and continue the lesson. I hope that was a helpful activity and that you've learned a little bit here. So now what we're going to do is choose one of those case studies. So either the heat stroke from sport, the fever from a virus, or low blood sugar when you're having your exams. And now I want you to do this activity. This is a choose your own adventure, okay? So you can choose either to do, so whatever your chosen case study, you're going to then choose one of these options to do a little project, just a brief formative assessment. So either this is kind of like a mild, medium, challenging activities. So option 1, we're going to talk about cause and effect. So if you choose this option, you want to explain how the stimulus led to the final outcome. So remembering that cause is the reason for something happening, effect is what happened, and if you add them together, it's explaining why it happened. So you can use words like so, because, therefore, since, if, then, so, that, whatever you want. So that will be option 1. If you choose option 2, this is our failure point diagnosis. This is where I want you to identify where the homeostasis system has failed in your chosen case study, and then justify your reasoning why you think that's where it's failed. If you choose option 3, you're going to propose a solution or intervention that would restore homeostasis in this case study and explain how it would work. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is choose one of the case studies, one of the 3 case studies to do. Then you're going to choose one of these 3 options. So take about 15 minutes. I want you to go onto our Canva by using this link, and you'll see this slide to start with. And then you're going to make a new slide underneath with your, tell me what your case study is, tell me what option you're doing, and then answer the questions. So I'm looking forward to seeing those answers now. So press pause now and I'll see you soon. I hope that activity was helpful for you and that you're really starting to understand the importance of our feedback mechanisms in our body and how there are lots of different ways that our body can be out of balance and the homeostasis isn't happening, and how busy our biology and our physiological processes are to get us back to normal. So we know that feedback mechanisms are essential for the body's ability to maintain homeostasis. They regulate lots of different physiological processes, ensuring that we're functioning absolutely optimally and that we don't have any disease or sickness. So understanding these mechanisms not only helps us appreciate how complex our bodies are, but it also emphasizes how significant these feedback mechanisms are when we're starting to make decisions about our health and decision making about how we're going to treat these things and any environmental interactions that we might have. So keep that in mind, that we really need this to work properly, otherwise we can get quite unwell. Remembering how we just did our power paragraph at the beginning of this lesson, I now want you to grab that back out again. We are going to revisit our power paragraph. So for another 2 minutes, I want you now to read your power paragraph from the beginning of the lesson. Is there anything else you want to add to your paragraph now? And is there anything you feel that you need to revisit in this topic, or you're still not quite sure you understand fully? Please pause this video, set your timer for 2 minutes, and add to your power paragraph now. That's the last activity for this topic. However, if you're still feeling that you've got some questions or there's something that you're not sure about, I want you to either email me or add to our Padlet some extra questions. I'll add another little column there for any extra questions that you might have that I can then help explain to you, and we can meet and discuss what you're struggling with, where your gaps might be, so that as we continue on to our next topic, that you'll feel comfortable that you're understanding this one. So as a recap, we've covered the 3 big systems of the nervous system, the endocrine system, and the immune system. We've talked about how the nervous system is quite fast and almost immediate responses and uses electrical impulses and messages. Our endocrine system is a little bit slower but longer acting and uses hormones, and our immune system has those protective barriers against external pathogens to prevent sickness. We then have our feedback mechanisms in our body, which is our positive feedback, which helps amplify change, and our negative feedback, which counteracts any deviations from normal. And all of this works together to help our body maintain homeostasis, which is the balance in our body, to allow it to function at its optimal state so that we're healthy and strong and that our body does what it needs to do. I'm looking forward to our next topic, which will be all about infectious and non-infectious diseases, and we will keep relating it back to what we've learned in this topic. But I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to seeing you soon. Bye.